Thank you very much, Riv. Misfits Gaming inches away from completing the biggest upset in the history of League of Legends, and yet SK Telecom showing composure around the Elder Dragon that can only be shown from a World Championship team. They take the fight, they take the win, and they're moving on to the semifinals.
Yeah, this was a huge risk for Misfits. They had lost so much of their global pressure, and their support was in base, and such a close smite. Let's watch this. They both smite at 1,067 from the looks of it.
And it was a flank teleport from, of all people, Jace. Full damage, never even won a Hex Drinker. Gets in the backline, deletes Power of Evil, and that's when the sinking feeling begun for Misfits.
And again, it's the vision control from SKT, the fact that they have the ability to look for the deep flanking plays like that they find these pockets of fog of war and they punish you at the smallest instance.
And you can see it on the faces of the Misfits players. That one will sting and will stick with them for a while, as they were so close to unseating our two-time defending champion.
And I know Azale and Deficio already said it, and we don't need to remind the audience at home or the audience here in the actual stadium that Misfits deserve to hold their heads up high, but I just want to reiterate, so many players take a step back. When they're looking down the barrel of Faker, when they're looking at SKT, they play safe. They go for the Rise pick, they go for the Orianna, they bundle up. Misfits said no. Power of Evil took a signature pick in Syndra. They threw away the Ardent Sensor with the Karma, and they put Igno on his signature pick of Thresh. They said, you can do it, I believe in you, don't back down, press forward.
Yeah, and they pushed SKT to their absolute limit. They don't get that giant upset, but they are right in that league with the other teams that have taken SKT to the limit, and that's a pretty elite crew.
They put all of the cards on the table, Misfits did, but as you mentioned, Papa Smithy, a couple big plays in the end for SKT, the biggest of which, the flanking Jace. Speaking of which, Hooney standing by with Shox for a quick interview. Let's head there now.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Hooney. It took blood, sweat, and tears. And Hooney, when you come over here, you drop to your knees. How difficult was it, and did you expect it to be this difficult today?
Yeah, actually, currently we had a lot of practice, and it was not going well. So we actually expected it's gonna be a really hard game, but not as much as this. But also, I've heard that the Misfits is really good at playing like just as a five, just as a team, and every line is like really decent. They know how to play around like power strikes, and also they're having like really nice laning phase too. And yeah, there was a lot of like new composition. Like there was like something new pick, like Leona, like we didn't actually expect it, and also like there is like just hard game. Yeah, really hard game.
Incredibly hard game. If you had to think of the biggest challenge today, would that then be in your own team, or would it be anything that Misfits threw at you?
Yeah, it's like just for my professional player in history. It's like was actually the hardest game, I think. And Misfits is like they're really good, and we need to practice more.
You guys are still working towards that goal. You are working towards that all-important goal of becoming the world champion. So what's up next? What are you going to do now to make sure that you are focused and that you are on point for that semifinal next week, Hooney?
So of course our goal, my team goal is like just winning world championship. That's the right reason the SKT is here, and yeah, and so we gotta practice really more. And there's like we actually learn a lot with this the quarterfinals. Actually, Misfits, they some point they're actually really better than us. So we actually learn a lot, and we gotta practice around that.
Well, thank you very much for giving us also an amazing series and for giving Misfits the respect in the end they deserve. Thank you very much, Hooney. Congratulations, and now back over to you guys.
Thank you, Shox. Hooney talking about how difficult the day was for them, how unexpected some of the picks were, and what they had to deal with. Another thing that was unexpected was the fact that the series even went to 5 games, Papa Smithy. When we look at the outset of the day, the way that this was set up, 3-0s across the board. Again, I'll remind everyone that 98% of pick'ems had SKT moving through this best of 5.
And, you know, predicting right, you know, saying, okay, SKT will take it, you think that will make me feel giddy, but I kind of feel a similar emotion to after the SKT Rock series last year, you know, fantastic 5-game series. People said it could have been the final, but of course, the bracket didn't work out that way. And I kind of feel robbed because all I want after this series is to watch Misfits in another best of 5 to see their evolution here. SKT will go on. As was said by Hooney, they'll learn from the run, but it's amazing how you have these series where everything is new. Just like that series, we had the support MF last year. Here we have the support pool just exploding to life with old and new. I wish we could have more games. Suddenly, best of 7 sounds like a go.
I don't know if I could handle another 2 games of this series, Papa Smithy, but when we talk about what makes a world champion, right, it is about those high-pressure situations. It's about execution in the moment. And SKT is a roster full of people that have played in big moments, and they deliver every time.
Yeah, and for Huni, he's been on both sides of this, right? He was on that Fnatic team that took SKT to 5 games at MSI in 2015. Now he was the one who was able to come on the team at the very end. And SKT, even though it felt like they were slow to adapt in this series, or that they didn't change from group stage, they pulled out Braum and Tom Kench in the midst of a best of 5 when everyone's been playing nothing but Jana, Lulu, and Rakan for 2 weeks of group stage. This team knows exactly how they have to adapt. You can push them to the absolute limit, but it is so hard to break that team.
It's also the fact that their individual performances, we talk about them being clutch players, the fact that they are making these small adaptations, that they're bending but they're not breaking. But then you look at Faker, who is just a solid rock. Even in SKT's losses, this guy proving that he is the best player in the world. And it seems small because it wasn't as flashy as we're used to seeing with Faker, but he was always there, never giving up, never giving them an inch.
And let's not forget, opposing team has triple Infernal Drake. SKT wins the fight around the Elder Dragon late game to take the series. But when it all comes to bringing this match back, all of the SKT members stepped up. One person in particular, though, earned himself player of the series. No surprise, it's that man in the mid lane, the Demon King himself. It's Faker.
I mean, in the victories especially, Faker was amazing. And this was what we saw from Faker in the LCK playoffs, taking out great teams like Samsung and KT at the time. When he needs to step up, this is why he's the best in the world, because everyone can have good games, but having important pivotal series when the team needs them to is becoming just the legacy of Faker.
Yeah, he just did carry in a lot of those games. I have to double check on that one KDA in Game 5 that we see on that graphic. Ooh. One player that I do want to talk about besides Faker on Misfits side is Ignar.
Yep.
For bringing out Fervor Leona, Alistair, Thresh, and forcing SKT into a bunch of bans and forcing SKT into playing a completely different pool of supports. We don't hand out player of the series to losing teams, but if we did, I think Ignar would have a huge case for getting it in this series.
Credit to him for putting Faker in a position where you could tell he was visibly rattled. Again, we were calling out after multiple games the look on his face for all of these SKT members. They were truly pushed to their limits today by the Misfits squad and were near elimination. They've squeaked through. Huni's talking about it. They've got tons of work to do if their goal is to defend their title in 2 weeks' time. They still have a semifinal to get through.
And the other guys on their bracket are people like Reckless, like Uzi. You know, the road actually really only gets harder from here. Yes, Ignar gave a great performance, but there are still plenty of very powerful bot lanes that are looking on the other side of this bracket.
I just don't think you can fake innovation if you're the other teams in this bracket. If you see this match and ends up being standard on their side, that's one thing that SKT will love to opt in. They just want to go back to Ardent Sensor, long games, maybe some Twitch. They do not want to be dragged into what ended up being a bit of a mudslinging match with new picks coming again and again. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the next match goes and also the adaptation in a week.
I actually think that's perfect for both Jesus and Ming. Ming actually has played Leona 4 times in the LPL.
With Nocturne, right?
With Nocturne. So
Fervor?
Not Fervor. AD runes, though, and he plays it into Karma. And Jesus is also a huge playmaking support in his own right. So, like I said, it only gets harder for SKT. The Achilles heel has been exposed. There's still this magnificent warrior, but they can be taken down.
And Jad, while we're on the topic, I mean, this just excites me for the continuation, of the evolution of the meta here at Worlds, because we thought it was all decided, and then and it just seems every day something new, something interesting comes out. And not only are we having to see adaptation within series, we're probably going to have to see adaptation for tomorrow's quarterfinals for whichever teams we're watching.
Yeah, and I can't wait because the meta in the series that we saw on Thursday was much different than the meta we saw in this series, and I think it'll be much different on Saturday, Sunday, because everyone had to match what they're going to do about banning Janna and Lulu. And where does the meta go from there? Does it go straight to melees? Do you take the next tier of sensor support like Tarek? Because, I mean, Misfits jumps into that best of 5 yesterday. Who knows what kind of stuff they're going to be prepping because it's so individualized, the types of things you're doing. You're prepping just for your opponent in that game.
And it's the best case scenario for the meta because we came into the tournament very quickly. It was like, okay, heal barrier, Ardent Sensor, long lanes, hyper carries. It was clear that was the strategy in scrims that was winning. It was also the least risk. So the Korean teams probably adopted it first. Everyone else took a note from that. There are playmaking tools. Teams tried it early, they shied away from it. The evolution of the meta is usually what beats this, and the Caitlyn was the start, and into what we're seeing today. Every day is an individual meta, and that's when balance is looking good.
And I can't wait for it to bleed over to the jungle position, because the one thing that's remained true is still Sejuani's reigning dominance over these 2 quarterfinals. But the thing is, we have contracts, Cloud9 and WE at the very bookend of this week, and that's when things get very exciting for how you're going to break and change that tank jungle meta.
We talk about the meta. Let's talk to the man who has to adapt to the meta for SKT. Shox is standing by with the head coach, Koma.
Thank you, guys. I'm also standing by with the coach, Koma, after SKT got pushed harder than they ever have in a quarterfinal, but still managed to make it out. What would you say was the most difficult to overcome today, Koma?
우선 8강에서 승리를 축하드리고요. SKT 여태 모든 롤드컵 다 통틀어서 가장 고전했던 8강이 아닌가 싶은데요. 오늘 가장 어려웠던 부분이 무엇이 있었을까요?
오늘 가장 좀 어려웠었던 부분은 좀 라인전에서 좀 실수가 많이 나온 것 같아가지고 좀 그런 부분 때문에 많이 고전한 것 같습니다. 특히 좀 바텀 라인전에서 좀 실수가 덜 나왔으면 좋았는데 그 부분에서 좀 많이 흔들렸던 것 같아요.
So I think the most difficult part was at the lane phase. There are a lot of mistakes that we should have made. And I think definitely the game should have been better if our bot lane had made some less mistakes and played just a bit better.
I talked to Huni before. He had a lot of praise for the Misfits team, who were absolute underdogs today. What can you say to the play of your opponents today?
훈인 선수가 이전 인터뷰에서 상대편인 미스피츠 팀을 매우 많이 칭찬하고 정말 좋은 팀을 얘기했었는데요. 코치님은 미스피츠 팀에서 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
일단은 오늘 경기도 이렇고 뭐 지난 경기들 보면은 굉장히 잘한다고 생각하고요. 각 라이너별로도 진짜 기량이 되게 뛰어나서 앞으로 많이 좀 기대되는 팀인 것 같아요.
So like just looking at today's game, I think it's pretty obvious that they're a really talented team. Like all their players, they have a lot of potential and a lot of talent in them. So I think you can see a lot more of Misfits in the future tournaments to come.
But it's SKT that we'll be looking at going forward, triumphing here again today. Thank you very much, Koma. Congratulations. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shox. And as we continue to talk about the journey that's ahead of SK Telecom if they intend to defend their title, I want to ask you guys about any holes that we saw today. I mean, there definitely were some. But coming into the day, right, there were questions. Do you take them late? Do you go early and try and... Misfits showed us that throughout the day, they could stack up against SKT in multiple ways. So is there only one solution? Are there multiple? What are our thoughts here?
You just recognize that they're not unkillable, that gods do bleed, and that you can write in blood. Like, you just play your game. That's what Misfits did. Yeah, people can break it down stylistically, like, oh, Misfits are early game, so you play early game against SKT. That's what EDG did. That's what worked. At the heart and soul of it, Misfits just played what they were comfortable with. They weren't afraid that it was SKT, and I think that's the most important thing here.
Yeah, and when I look at SKT, a lot of times I like to think they're the Borg, because you'll throw something at them, then they'll adapt and never lose to that thing again. And I think that almost happened in this series, where Misfits was playing around bottom side absurdly so, a 28% jungle proximity for Maxlore in that Game 3 victory. But they had the perfect answer. First picking the Tristana and then locking in the Tahm Kench in that 5th game was a completely perfect answer to Misfits' entire strategy for the series. So the fact that they came up with that on the fly when no one was playing like that is extremely impressive. But the fact that they're even in that position makes it a genuine conversation of how do you actually attack SKT in series.
I mean, we talk about conversations and Prey also stepping up this year and people saying, okay, consensus best AD carry. It was also about duo lanes, and Bang & Wolf had some mares, had some down performances, both today and also in the LCK. So seeing that bleed over, playing around bot lane is possible. And a small point also, Peanut had a weak series again. I still think he starts the next best of 5 for that information advantage, but outside of that, that's really all you're getting out of Peanut at this tournament.
Play your own game, play around bot lane. The man who embodied that was Ignar himself. He's standing by with Shox for a word. Let's go there now.
Thank you, guys. I'm also standing by here with Ignar, who I realize this must be a very difficult moment for as well. So first off, Ignar, I just want to give the floor to you and let you speak on whatever you want about what happened today.
Today we lose against SKT. It was really close to win, but I feel really happy because our team grew up really, really slow. Like our team was like second league, but we come world and we meet SKT and it was close, but almost win. So it's really, really thank you for all parts of Misfits. Yeah.
You say you got really close to it. You, Ignar, played a phenomenal role actually throughout the groups as well. And now you pick Leona with Feather of Battle. You pick Alistar. You go in all the time. Where did the decision come from to make these bold choices? And how come you were so confident against that SKT bottom lane?
People against SKT days, I thought maybe we can't win against SKT with normal way. So I want to try my full competence champions. So it was like engage champions because I have really a lot of confidence on engage. And then our assistant coach, which name is Hiba told me about Fever Leona, and I tried it already a few times, and it was really, really good. So I tried to use today, and it was success.
It was fantastic. You say you're already very happy. Can you kind of look back on the whole year? What would be your best memory, or what would be your best thing to think about going forward with this team? Because it's only the beginning.
I don't know, with this team, always like update with best memory, because our team was second series and we go first league. It was best time at that moment, but after then we go like we place at 4. It was really good, and then next season we get second place, and it was good again. So now is I don't know is world, so I don't know is keep updating. So it's really happy. Yeah.
You kept going up, so next year, world champion? I was just...
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Just a bit of a joke, but thank you very much for talking to us, Ignar. Congratulations, you have made entire European LCS and a lot of fans around the world very happy with a great series. Thank you very much. All right, back over to you guys.
Thank you, Shocks. From Challenger to Worlds quarterfinals, pushing SK Telecom to Game 5. That's a pretty damn good resume for just 1 year out in the field.
It's a big point. I mean, he had a career in Korea. Of course, he was on, ironically, what is now Longzhu, so it's a bit of a down week for them. But making his name, his English clearly is on point as well. I had heard about that before. He's making such a star-making performance. The Alistair sneak into the back of the top turret where he evaded vision. Some Metal Gear Solid stuff there. He's a star.
Well, as we put a close on today's series, let's go ahead and pull up the bracket to close out our day. Tomorrow, Fnatic faces off against RNG to decide who takes on SKT in that semifinal matchup. Quick thoughts on how that matchup might break down.
I mean, it's a rematch from the 2013 semifinals, I believe, Fnatic versus RNG, and it's Reckless and Uzi, again, looking across from each other. European Wei Xiao versus the dude who took over Wei Xiao's throne.
I mean, the importance of the bot lane, right? We've seen it in the last 2 series, could become very big here, but that's where you'd look at RNG's performance from the group stage and say, they're definitely favorites.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for these matchups. The fireworks we got to see in the first 2 days, Longzhu versus Samsung, the way SKT versus Misfits comes out, you expect RNG to be the favorites, you expect WE to be the favorites, but I don't know who's going to win.
I don't know anymore either.
And I just expect a new lease on the meta. I don't think we're going to get anything we've seen in the last 2 years. Maybe the greatest hits of it, but new stuff as well. I'm going to be off the broadcast tomorrow just furiously taking notes and trying to make sense of this week of quarterfinals and predict the future. It's almost like the players aren't sure of it just yet.
More fireworks tomorrow, but for now, myself, the casters, the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for Worlds tonight, where Crumbs, QuickShot, and Kobe will go over the day's games and look towards the rest of quarterfinals. Otherwise, meet us back here tomorrow for more Worlds 2017. Good night.
Legends never die.